Greetings, everyone who's watching us live on YouTube and Facebook to another episode of Pulso Tecnologico, our weekly program in which we will show you the new and interesting technologies that are being developed currently. Right now, to this afternoon, we have two lovely guests named Tarak Lucas Baghamba. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, and Justin O'Connor. So let's give them a warm welcome.
Hi everyone.
Everybody.
So, can you tell us a little bit about your background? Where are you from? And how did you uh, meet us to this
Yes,
program?
yes.
Sorry.
Hola a todos, soy Justin O'Connor, fundador de Infracobes. Antes que nada, quiero agradecerles por invitarnos hoy. Hablo un poquito español, no perfecto, pero un poquito. Pero gracias a todos, estamos emocionados a ser aquí. My background is in cloud and DevOps engineering. I've led large, complex engineering organizations within enterprises and Fortune 500 companies in the U.S. I live in the East Coast of the United States in North Carolina. After about a decade working in the cloud and working with teams and thinking about how to create great developer experiences and engineering experiences in the cloud space, I wanted to start solving some of those problems upstream, moving some of that up the stack and finding ways to really help make the lives of engineers every day work better and better. And so we founded Onward Platforms. It's a company designed specifically for creating great engineering experiences in the cloud. And so with that mission in mind, we started building a product. It's our flagship product, the first of its kind for our company, called InfraCodebase. InfraCodebase aims to take everything that you do as a company, all of the rules that you have to follow, your ways of working as a team within your organization, and all of the tools that you use every single day in the way that you interact with the cloud, and bring them into a single pane of glass that allows everyone to work in a consistent way and helps everyone to be the best architect and the best platform engineer, the best developer that they can be. What InfraCodebase ultimately does is it helps to accelerate and align engineering efforts across enterprise organizations. So really exciting what we've been doing. We had built an original product that was a truly SaaS product, collected a lot of data, built a lot of databases, a lot of UI to support infrastructure development in Terraform, which is the preeminent infrastructure language for multi-cloud and large enterprise organizations. And we actually pivoted that product into an AI native product as we got into months and months of conversations with people who were starting to touch our product, people that are interested in adopting our product. And we learned a lot. And one of our philosophies as a company is really to kind of listen to our customer and build the best thing that we possibly can for the people who want to use our products to make their work better. And so what we heard was people wanted AI native experiences that felt like a coworker working with them, that had the context of their day-to-day work, that could help to accelerate and improve the way that they deliver cloud infrastructure. And ultimately, from a CTO perspective, kind of moving up from the engineer side up to the CTO kind of more perspective, is how do we start to take this infrastructure plumbing in the cloud and condense the timelines to deliver that so that we can focus on application delivery, which is where revenue is generated for companies within enterprise, whether that's internal tools that are being developed or whether that's client-facing or customer-facing tools that teams are building. So that's what InfraCodebase helps to solve today. We'll give you a little bit of a flavor of what that looks like in the AI native era. But again, we're so happy to be here. Gracias a todos. And I'll hand this thing off to Tarak to introduce himself.
Hi everyone. Thank you so much. I will keep it in English. So I'm the co-founder with Justin. I spent like the past 4 or 5 years working on cloud infrastructure, and today basically I'm working with him on building, like he said, the best product on cloud infrastructure management. I will do a demo as well. You will see how the product looks like. If you have any questions, really see that maybe as a discussion. So if there are any question in the chat or any question, then don't hesitate to ask, and we are here for you today.
Yeah, that sounds great. So, uh, just in case, I will try to provide a little bit of translation if they send any question our way in Spanish. So, don't worry. So, you told us about this kind of product or service in which you can build cloud infrastructure using natural language in a way in which you will talk to a colleague. So how does that work?
So, do you want me to share the screen now? Or maybe you can share the screen. I can go to the product. I can show you exactly how it looks like. So, this is InfraCode base. Like Justin said it, the goal is actually to have one single source of truth where you bring, for example, you invite all of your team members, you choose the role as well. Then, for example, you have different projects that you can build. Today, we are really focused on two main ones, let's say. The greenfield is like when, like you said, you go from an idea, you go from specification, and from there you are going to build either a cloud or multi-cloud infrastructure. When I speak about cloud infrastructure, I speak, for example, about Azure, AWS, GCP, OCI, and so on. And the other one is basically import from GitHub, is when you already have an existing code base that you really want to understand, really want to audit to be able to improve, for example, the security posture, the cost, and so on, then you can do that as well. Right now, for example, one thing that we can show you is like, let's say if we work on Azure infra, for example, here, then I choose either to keep it on private, internal, or public. For example, I keep it on private. And then, like you said earlier, we can really write the way we want to build our cloud infrastructure. And then we can also follow the best practices, for example, on, let's say, if we want to build it on Terraform, if we want to build it following the best practices of Azure. So let's get started. So for example, the first thing that I'm going to do is that I'm going to go directly here, cloud architecture. Then I'm going to choose, for example, this one. So it's an architecture diagram that Microsoft builds. And here we can say, okay, now follow, for example, here we can choose the Azure Web Architecture Framework. So here we can say follow this and Terraform best practices to build this Azure infrastructure. So from there, it's a small, let's say, prompt. So it's natural language. Then AI will directly be able to understand like the picture, the architecture diagram. It will also be able to really understand like the best practices from Visceral. Also be able to understand like what are the best practices in terms of Terraform. And as you can see, it's already started building it. What we wanted to do as well is like we always want to keep the visibility to the user, to the person who is using our products in terms of what the AI is doing. So here you have all the task progress. So as you can see now, he was able to understand like that this is an Azure infrastructure, is going to follow the URL that we give him, as well as the Terraform best practices. Now he will understand like he's analyzing the architecture and creating the project structure, and then he already started writing the Terraform code for us. So as engineers, our goal is really like to stay aware of what the AI is doing, really understanding what the AI is doing in terms of steps. And also, if we want, we can look at all the files and we can directly modify it if we want to.
Yeah, part of what makes this really powerful is that you can bring your own context. It can be your words expressing your intent. What do you want? So when it comes to AI, what's really cool about AI, and I don't know how AI native or aware the entire audience is. So just for a little bit of explanation. What's really interesting is in traditional software, you have to write the logic to say what you want. If this, then do that. And if this, then do that. And if if none of that works, then throw an error or do some exception case and something like this. And so when you do deterministic programming and you have a very specific logic flow within your application, ultimately you're creating the path to get the user from a particular place to where they're trying to go, but you have to pave every single path. You have to tell it exactly which ways people should interact with your product. What's really cool about agentic development and agentic work like this is that we're not giving the agent anything specific right now, telling it exactly how to do what it does. We're saying, here's my desired state. I would like to have code that exists that represents this architecture that I want to build and all of the requirements that I have for it. And I want you to figure out the necessary steps to do that. So when we look at this task list, what's really cool and important about that is it's almost like what somebody who would have to go and like program something or think through the steps to do what they have to do, they would have to write the software or something to do this. Agents take care of this for you. They're kind of like intelligent routers that can route to different tools and techniques and context to get you to the answers that you need to solve the problem that you're trying to solve. And so that's one of the very interesting things about this. And one thing that I love about that is that it creates the opportunity for us to not work against organizations when it comes to the tools they use today. For example, architects might use Lucid or Draw.io or other tools to be able to draw their architecture diagrams. You might have your platform engineers who are working in Cursor or Windsurf or using Claude Code and VS Code or wherever they're working. They may be using multiple different sources of truth for code repositories. But at the end of the day, you can ultimately just provide that as context, as tools to the agent, and the agent can use those and say, if I need to take an action and I have a tool, I can now go take that action. And so you can still use all the things you use today, but you can operate all of those things from a single point with an agent that's able to draw from the context and the actions that you have available to you within your enterprise. So it's very nice from that perspective that it really does kind of condense not the surface area of all the tools you have, but the surface areas you have to touch to do the work that you want to do to deliver the infrastructure that you're trying to build.
So now, as you can see,
and feel free to ask questions to us too during this demo as well. Happy to answer any questions you have.
and now this is what I was saying as well, is like with the small prompt that we wrote earlier, he was already able to write all of the Terraform files that you can see here. For example, this one, then the main one here, you can actually look at it, really understand the syntax as well. This is really a common product because we have a lot of people who are using it as well to train, to really use AI as a mentor, either if they just started the journey on Terraform, on cloud, and so on. So there are a lot of people who actually use the product to take their certifications, but there are also senior engineers who really want to go faster in a more secure way and are able to use our product as well today.
So if I have an already existing code base, maybe something I hacked together in 1 week and kind of quickly as a proof of concept, this tool will help me like find possible vulnerabilities or problems with my code and
the goal for you will be, for example, that is what I showed you earlier, is when you have your code, for example, in GitHub, and you import your repository. First thing that you do, for example, it's either the assessment or the audit, and then from the finding of the audit or the assessment, then you can say, now I would like to improve the security posture. I would like to really understand like all the security vulnerabilities. Yes, it's something you can do as well. And to be honest, I'm doing a lot of testing and it's really working very well, especially when you have large code bases where usually a human will spend maybe a month or months to be able to do that. We are able to do that in less than in minutes or in hours. So yes, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, you make a really good point. There's a lot of different ways to interface with this product. So from a greenfield perspective, there's a lot of opportunity for new learners, like the cloud curious or people trying to get into the cloud infrastructure space to use it, to learn to write good infrastructure code, to query the agent, to ask it questions, to teach it about the services that it's deploying and the way that things are ultimately configured. There's also like, because of AI, oh, hi. Because of AI, a lot of people are starting to write software these days, and a lot of these people that are writing software are not cloud platform engineers. They might be small teams, individual people, and they want to be able to build these things in the cloud, but they don't have the money or the knowledge to do that. This is a great way to do that in terms of, oh, I built something on Lovable, it's doing really well, I've hosted it, and now I need to put that in the cloud. So this is another way that even bootstrapped or young companies who are trying to build things for themselves with the tools that we have today can extend their runway into the cloud and start to scale what they're building as they're on their journey to building something really great for their customers. Of course, in the enterprise space, most of what we see is actually brownfield. Of course, there's always new projects, but there's a lot of existing repositories, a lot of existing code that people want to be able to extend and to audit, do security reviews on, and to ultimately improve. And so that's what we see a lot of as well. And another cool use case is IAC modernization. So IAC modernization is a lot of companies start by working in the cloud console. They don't use infrastructure as code from the start, and they ultimately want to modernize to IAC. So by putting things into the cloud, by clicking around, you can actually use our product with MCPs to pull that context into the agent and then convert whatever you have in your cloud today into code so that you can modernize to IAC. And then the final and more experimental one that we're still looking for good candidates and use cases for is cloud migration from on-prem into the product. So the on-prem migration, it really depends on how you're migrating to the cloud. Are you using a cloud tool to migrate and then bringing things into infrastructure code? Or are you trying to go straight from on-prem to the cloud and do kind of a like-for-like migration? And so that's, these are kind of the things you get into when you work with large enterprise companies and thinking about how you're going to solve those problems. Is there's a lot of interesting edge cases and difficult problems. But like Tarak said, it's been exciting to see some of the value this is able to produce in really large code bases with a lot of really large existing sets of infrastructure. I see you got a complete infrastructure there.
Yeah. So, for example, we started from a picture. We started by feeding as well the context to the AI in terms of URL and everything, and then you directly saw that. So we started from zero. We started from, let's say, natural language in terms of prompt, and in terms of minutes, it was really able to generate and to write a very good Terraform code. It also gives you all the output with all the explanation that he has done. Of course, security minded that we have. We say now, can you run Terraform validate? The goal is actually to really understand like the way the code was written, if there is like any syntax that we could improve, and then once it's done, then we can do, for example, a breakdown cost to really understand like the total cost of the code base. Once we are done doing that, then I will show you as well the integration with GitHub, and then you push it to GitHub directly for other team, for example, to consume, and yeah. But let's do run the Terraform validate first. Let's understand what it's doing, and then we will continue building together.
So, for example, in the case of a very small team in which they are not particularly technical oriented, more of a, for example, in the case of small video games or some small kind of app that needs cloud integration for some feature, this tool will not only help them find the right tools for the jobs, but also implement those and help
Yes.
maintain that cloud infrastructure in a way that is more like a contractor.
Yes, so like I said earlier, you have different people with different level of maturity today. What we need to really understand what we use AI is really like really explicit. Because once we are explicit, then we really can kind of control the outcome, the output of the AI. So, for example, right now, I still need to really understand like the syntax, the way it's written, and everything. But I can, if I don't understand something, then I can use AI as a mentor. For example, to human, I wouldn't maybe think about asking a specific question because I could be judged or something. But with AI, I see a lot of people being like way more honest, asking like questions that are maybe beginners, but they really use AI, and we see the learning curve that that is accelerating as well. We see a lot of junior, let's say, cloud engineer using our product today, and instead of spending months learning theories and everything, they directly go to a product, they directly training it, and spend, like I said, spending months. They are able to reduce the learning curve and build way faster in a more controlled manner as well. So this is really the power of AI. This is what I wanted to show today. Is like, how can you use natural language to be able to go from this to a fully enterprise ready cloud infrastructure. Today we chose, for example, to build it on Azure. We could have chosen to build it either multi-cloud, for example, AWS and Azure, or choose, for example, to go from, okay, I'm already have my code on Azure, I would like to have it, for example, on AWS. So there are a lot of use cases that we can think about as well. And you see, for example, here, from there, then it gives me the always like the visibility in terms of action of what is doing. Now it's fixing as well. For example, is identifying security flaws, for example, and based on that is already doing the remediation. And now everything is basically done in terms of tasks that I asked. So he has done already 6 tasks. Now he's delegating that to a Git agent to be able to commit all the validation that he has done as well.
Okay, right now we have one question that
Yes.
our dear friend Christian Business Garcia sent. Which do you think is the best model for web and C++ development of applications? Like, maybe
So
a little bit unrelated to the
Yeah,
yeah.
no, it's totally okay. I mean, I think it's a great question. Thank you, Christian, for asking the question. So, this is a big race. All these model founders, these large companies, OpenAI, Google, AWS, Microsoft, they've all made major investments both in hardware and software and in talent to try to drive these models forward. At this point, most of the leading models in all these companies, whether it's GPT-5 or Sonnet 4.5, do a pretty good job. But so in general speaking, Anthropic pretty much has the best coding model still on the market, I would say, regardless of language that you're using. We've done a ton of testing even within our own product, not only on the models that are best, and we've assessed pretty much all of them from OpenAI, Gemini, AWS, but also frameworks as well. So there's like when we talk about like the way we interact with AI today, it's not just about models and chats like it was in 2023. It's really about agents, and it's about like the tools that are wrapped around these models to make them really, really great. And so, for example, like that's why you kind of see this battle between like Cursor and Windsurf and Claude Code and GitHub Copilot, is because the power of these things to be able to write great code is actually really in that agent. So I would say even on a month-to-month basis, the person who executes that the best kind of goes up and down, and it depends on what you value. So for example, because Sonnet 4.5 is so good, and because Claude Code is such a great agent, a lot of people just love Claude Code and they use Claude Code for everything. But other people really like the choice of picking what models they want to use, whether it be Gemini or something else. And so Cursor and other tools like that become very appealing, or GitHub Copilot, because you can actually select which models you want to use. And for different types of work, they might prefer different types of models. So I would say there's no one size fits all. And I also wouldn't get too prescriptive about saying definitely pick this or definitely pick that. When it comes to AI, it's about pure experimentation and curiosity. Like find the things that work for you, the workflow that really suits your style, and the models that seem to like fit well for you, and keep going with those. But if it were me and I was going to sit down and write an app, which we are, I'd probably use Claude Code and Anthropic models. It's my favorite.
And if we continue, for example, on what we are able to find, because security for us is really important as well, is like, for example, you have on the findings, you directly see that he was able to understand first where, for example, where the security flaws were, and then mitigate by itself. So he has done all of this work directly. And then now we can say, okay, great. Now create the breakdown cost file. because again, two challenges of the cloud that we see very often is like security first and then cost as well. So for example, here, every time we build, before doing even a PR or pushing it to Git or something, we make sure that everything shift left. So we start from the prompt that we write, then with the context, of course, then we look at what the AI is performing in terms of actions, then we think about security, how we can improve the security posture, then the cost. And once everything is done, like we are pretty satisfied with the work that we have done and everything, then we can actually use GitHub and continue with the existing CI/CD that companies have as well. So now, for example, you and so like I will create a comprehensive cost breakdown file for the Azure landing zone infrastructure, and then why do I want to create it? Because it will help me estimate, manage costs around different environments, and then we can build as well a FinOps of a scenario, for example. So yes, it created that. Now I can open it and I can directly see, like, for example, depending on the environment, you have the monthly cost, annual cost as well. Why does it cost like this? All the estimation that he was able to do. And so you also have the visibility on security costs, and all the code has been already validated. So now we can continue. One last thing that we will do is that then we'll ask, like, how big now is the code base? How much time would an engineering team spend to build this work that we build together in less than half an hour? And like that, once everything is done, then we will push it to GitHub, and I think we will be done with the session.
Yeah, I mean, the way that we engineer is very human centric. We've always thought that it's important to bring people together to solve these types of problems. And so the idea is because, this agentic way of building is so much more palatable for every type of engineer within a company. Like normally, if you were in an enterprise, you might have a group of people that write infrastructure code, a group of people that do architecture, a group of people that understand security requirements and risk reviews and all these types of things. And the fact of the matter is now that you can actually encapsulate a lot of that knowledge into the enterprise. And I talk about enterprise into the concept of the product itself, and have people come in and collaborate together to deliver infrastructure in a consistent way, repeatedly over and over and over again, in the way that you want it to be produced. And so ultimately, this goes back to that initial story that I laid out, which was that we really want to try to get infrastructure plumbing as much out of the way as possible and focus on app delivery, make it so that cloud teams can deliver with massive speed without compromising on quality or compromising on security.
So I guess you already have a little bit of experience with working with companies or
Yes.
customers. So can you tell us a bit about some success stories you have had during the development and the implementation of this model system?
Yeah.
Service?
All success stories and like working with a company to use the product, right? So I don't want to say the name of the company just because I haven't asked them to share their name. So, but a e-discovery cybersecurity firm out of Los Angeles, California, they have tools that basically are there to help you discover whenever you have like an event a security issue within your environment. So let's say a hacker hacks into your database, or they come in and they try to like take your data or do something else or lock your data down and then like try to force you to pay ransom, whatever. You need people to come in and like respond to that. So they had for a long time had software that runs in VMs that they can use to do e-discovery over the data that's inside of M365 and Azure environments. And then we want to be able to say like, well, how do we actually use the AI to generate code that helps us to do like point and click deployment. So the idea is like they want a rapid response deployment kit that they can do to ship infrastructure code to those client environments and then install their software so that they can immediately start discovering where the issues are and try to remediate whatever those issues are from a security posture perspective and getting data unlocked or back. And so the beautiful part of that story there is like they really didn't have an engineering team, not a cloud engineering team, but they knew they needed to build repeatable, automatable patterns for deploying that infrastructure to their cloud environments to put their software in to be able to do these rapid response activities. It's not acceptable even to have 24 hours to sit there and like spin up infrastructure and figure out how to get things installed to like be able to use the tool to do the discovery work. And so this product's able to help them with really no engineering expertise or team to be able to build a rapid response kit. So that's something that we're currently underway with them on to be able to do. So it's a pretty interesting use case in the sense that they're a decent sized company. They're heavily funded startup in the $50 million range. And they needed something like this, and it worked really well for them.
One thing that we see as well is like, for example, here, that's why I wanted to give you the data as well, is like we work with a lot of companies who are also working. We work with a lot of companies to speed up the time to delivery. Like, for example, you see, if we compare really like what we build today together, like if I go a little bit on the top to really show you, like this is the number of this is how big the code base is. But what is more important for us is actually this. Like, for example, you directly see that, right? Scenario one, it could take between 2 to 3 weeks, depending on how big the infrastructure is. Sometimes we are able to reduce like from 3 to 6 months to days. So this is the way people use our product as well, to really shorten the time to delivery, but still keep all the security, the great work that they are used to as well. So, for example, here, this is a large scale enterprise infrastructure project. This is the complexity. This is the team effort, for example. It will take between 16 to 49 days. It represents between 50K to 150K worth of enterprise consulting work. So this is what we built today, is less than half an hour. Now we are happy with the results. Okay, it's perfect. What I can do now is that I can, for example, here, push it to the repository. So, for example, infrastructure. Here it's session. Then I can put it, for example, in public if you want to look at it after, and then I can create the repository as well. So now that is done, what I can do is that I can view the integration. I can look at it here, and then you are in GitHub now. You have the README. You have all the work that we built together, directly accessible, and then you can continue using the CI/CD to be able to deploy the infrastructure. Everything has been checked, validated, the cost as well. You have all the information. So yeah, we build this work together in half an hour.
Yeah, I gotta say, even though I am not as technically inclined, it's like very impressive how quickly you will manage to build something that is functional. Because I remember like a year and a half ago, when you tried to make a big code base using AI, sometimes it will get into contradictions or conflicts with itself because it couldn't take in its context the whole code base. So it would often make like really big mistakes in which sometimes the code base looked fine, but when you try to push it to production or to implement it,
Yeah.
it just didn't work. But it seems like this also validates and
Yes.
Yeah, I
makes
think
sure that
this
everything works.
Yeah, this is the big thing, right? So most tools, even like Lovable today, it's like a 0 to 80 solution. So it gets you a lot of the way there, but there's a lot of sins underneath the surface in terms of a lot of mock data, a lot of fake integrations, a lot of things that look nice in a UI, but really actually still need a lot of work to bring them into a production environment so that you can deploy them into your environment. really one of our philosophies and one of the things we have, what we call our 6 moats of our company, and the way that we look at how we defend our product positioning within the market. And one of the big ones that we focus on is the 0 to 100 problem. So we don't stop at the 80%. The last 20% is what defines enterprise grade depth and real differentiation. So we're building deeply for platform engineers, architects, security professionals. Like, we embed their workflows directly into the product so that it works the way that they do. And our goal is to solve the hard problems fully so that teams don't have to. The biggest issue a lot of times with this, and to your point, is trust, right? Like, how do I trust that what was done is actually quality and that it's either done or very close to done, and it just needs a human to review it and agree to it and say, okay, like, we're going to ship this into the environment. And that comes from the way that we've taken this concept of, it's not just about an individual person and an individual environment. It's really about how do you bring all of that enterprise context, tools, and workflow into a single product that helps everybody go from 0 to 100 without having to be the expert on their team. It still takes all of the knowledge of your team and all of the tools and the things that you use day to day. It doesn't replace you as a human in the process, but it does help you to take all of the things that you do and amplify your value and be able to create a lot more and take that from 0 to 100 instead of 0 to 80. So we do view that as a critical piece of our moat.
Yeah. So we have a few comments. Christian Vintas commented back, thank you for your response. Yeah.
De nada.
Yeah. Alan Borges says saludos or greetings.
Saludos,
And
okay.
he says the context is very, very important.
Yeah, that's what we see too. So there's multiple layers of context as well. So there's the context of, like, it could be a lot of things, because cloud, one of the hard things about cloud isn't code. Like, in software, sometimes the hard part is writing the code, but in the cloud, it's actually the things that aren't the code that become the big part of the problem, like cloud expertise, organizational expertise, understanding of your customer and the problem that you're trying to solve for your customer. So if we can bring that together into the platform in a way that every individual person doesn't need to know that, but that the agent can be informed to solve the problems in a way that's congruent with those 3 categories, it really creates something that's very well aligned to what you're trying to achieve. And that's at the enterprise kind of guardrails, guidelines level. And then inside of the workspace itself, you have context. So you saw that, like, Tarak uploaded, he gave it a URL, he gave it an image that it was able to look at and understand, and then some more text and contextual information to solve it. That was actually a very small amount of context. You could provide a lot more information if you wanted to. You might have developed your own cloud architecture diagrams, your own technical architecture plans, all of these other things as a team, and you can bring those into your workspace, and those documents become not only things in the context of your chat, but they get stored in the workspace as reusable components. So, like, actually, if Tarak went into the chat right now and typed like an @ mention, he could access any of the context that he's previously uploaded into this workspace to, like, bring it back into the agent and have it do further assessment and use that context some more. So absolutely, context is key when it comes to doing AI development.
So it seems you really need to have a really good documentation of every requirement or every workflow that it has. But if I am starting from scratch, I could use this infracode base as a way to build the documentation from the start.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, so, and I would also say too, it improves the quality of what you get out of it at scale when you take the time to integrate all of these other pieces. You can iterate with the agent in real time without providing it anything else. No additional context, no enterprise rules, guidelines, or tools or workflows. It has a default mode of operating, which is you working with it like a coworker, sharing your desires with it, and it working with you to solve the problems and allowing and supporting you to answer the questions that you have. So, like, by default, it's sort of good at what it does. It's good at what it does in the context of, like, in the general way it's done. But if you want it done your way, like the way that your company, your team thinks about it, does the things, then that's when you bring in the other context, and then you harden that into the product so that you don't have to keep providing that context over and over again with every time you want to start a new project or build something new. So that's where it starts to feel like a true team member. It feels like somebody that works at your company because it acts like somebody who works at your company because it has the same knowledge and context that you would have to solve similar types of problems.
Any other questions that you will have for us, or
Right now, we don't have any more questions in the comments. Le solicitamos a todos los colegiados que si tienen algunas preguntas puedan hacerlas en este momento para que nuestros invitados puedan responderlas de la mejor manera. But yeah, I'm a little bit shocked and impressed at the speed on which this system is able to build the infrastructure using like very minimal context.
yes. So that's why the topic of today, we really wanted to have like something simple, like how do you go from natural language, how do you write in English and Spanish and all, with little context to actually full infrastructure. Like I said on Azure today, but tomorrow you can test it and you can use it for AWS and all your cloud providers. But yeah.
But not only that, you can use it in Spanish too. Like if you wanted, like this README file we have open to Rock, you could say, could you rewrite the README in Spanish? And you could actually use the product that way. And if you wanted to talk to you in Spanish in the chat, that's fine too. That's the other beautiful thing about agents is that it doesn't mean you have to program every single language or, whatever it is into this thing. It's able to do those translations and speak with you in the way that you're comfortable being spoken with. And so in this case, it can do this for us, right? So it'll just go and say, hey, whatever I had for this Azure landing zone in Terraform, I can now do that in Spanish. If you asked it to speak to you in Spanish, you could also do that as well. So if you're kind of wondering if English is a barrier to this as well, getting started, giving it a try, I would say absolutely not. Just be clear with the agent that you prefer or would like to speak in Spanish to do the work, and then it will work in that way with you.
That's just was I was going to ask you if I could work with this system in Spanish. It seems like you guys thought about everything.
Yes, this is what actually is doing, and he understood what we wanted. He will translate the README. So this one, I think in Spanish, and then you will directly read and be able to get it. Yeah. So it's this one. So you see.
Oh.
Yeah. So you don't really need to work on English in English here. You can I can work in French. You can work in Spanish. It doesn't really matter the language. The goal is for you to train, to understand how you can use AI, how you can apply AI to cloud infrastructure management as well. And this is exactly the goal. And you see English term, then Spanish translation, the context.
So it just doesn't translate, but it takes the terms from the used in that language, but in the other. How do I say it? It takes the terminology used specifically for development in one language and takes it to the other language. It doesn't just translate.
Yes. Wow. This is what he said. Development teams in Spanish. So it's not a translation like it's really a translation based on the way Latin American are working. So yeah.
Yeah, and same thing here, Tarek. You could probably say in the chat, like from now on, can you speak to me in Spanish? And then it'll just start talking to you in Spanish now as well.
Yeah, that's quite cool. I see mostly more from a language perspective, from a cultural perspective, in which Latin American development teams and USA development teams or even Indian development teams,
Yeah.
everyone works like quite differently in the organization and the roles in which each team are assigned, and have this tool be able to adapt to those specifications or team
Yes.
roles.
This is
uh,
what he's doing, right?
it's
So
quite
now we
good.
said, okay, now you don't speak to me in English anymore, you speak to me in Spanish. He directly understood. And now, if you read it, is it a good Spanish?
Okay, I'll try to read it.
Yes.
You can make it bigger, maybe. Tarak, I'm not sure if you can zoom in.
Yeah, that's better. Infraestructura completa, seguridad empresarial, análisis detallado de costos, documentación bilingüe, o sea que it is keeping also the English documentation,
Mhm.
and is working both side by side, it seems.
Only because we started in English. If you
Mm.
started like saying, "Hey, can we do the session in Spanish?" From the beginning, it would have been in Spanish, and also the variable names and the things that get generated by the product would be in Spanish instead of variables. You variables. So like whatever so it would actually like use Spanish language in the code as well, which is much nicer if you're a Spanish speaker and you're writing code in Spanish because it's easy to read.
But yeah, it is quite good. It doesn't just translate the terminology, it actually uses the correct terminology for, in this case, Azure development in Spanish.
Yeah. So that's why we wanted to bring this product to your community, for them to start using it, maybe give us feedback as well. But yeah, we wanted to bring this technology to you and build a community in Costa Rica with you.
Yeah, and I have to go, but I really want to say a couple of things. I really appreciate everyone. I'm going to try my best. Quiero darles las gracias a todos por su tiempo, por su interés y por permitirnos compartir lo que estamos construyendo. Es un honor poder estar aquí y presentarles InfoCopes. It's been great.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, pretty much perfect Spanish, okay?
Estudié por 2 meses en Ecuador y viví en Costa Rica por muchos meses también en una finca de café, ayudando por eso. Y trabajé en un restaurante mexicano por 3 años. Solo podría practicar español.
That's pretty cool.
Thank you so much.
We have one more comment. Just seeing,
One more?
what libraries does Azure have for artificial intelligence and neural networks?
Yeah. Okay. So Azure. So I would say like libraries. So this is another like kind of more developer oriented question. I would say Microsoft, if I'm thinking about it from a software perspective, has produced what's called it used to be called Semantic Kernel. Semantic Kernel is their production grade framework for building agents on top of models, and those models could be from any provider. Of course, they make it easy to connect to OpenAI models inside of Azure, but you can directly connect to Anthropic or Gemini or any of those. They also created an experimental product called AutoGen, which was experimenting with different ways of doing orchestration of agents, especially in multi-agent systems. And so AutoGen for a long time was not a part of a product team. It was a part of a research team at Microsoft. That research team and the product team for Semantic Kernel have come together to create the agent SDK for Microsoft. They just released this. And so it's actually just now getting used. This is just like what's really cool about this space is that it's evolving so fast. Even the Anthropic agent SDK, that's only been out for like 3 weeks now or 2 weeks now. And so almost every month there's like some new model, there's some new framework, there's some new way of doing things. And we're increasingly seeing more and more ways to do this stuff without code as well. Like N8N, for example, is a tool that you can use to build workflows with AI that require no code at all, just like kind of building workflows with drag and drop tools and stuff like that. What's been really nice about working with AI tools from a software development perspective is a lot of it's protocol based, Christian. So like think about the way that you give give an agent access to do things with tools is like through what's called MCP, Model Context Protocol. It's just a standard way for models to be able to invoke tools and return responses back to those models and to those agents to be able to do work. Similarly, Google came out with A to A, which was their own standard for agent to agent communication, so that regardless of where your agent was built, they could actually speak to each other in a common chat. And now there's efforts to even unify UIs and agents, where they're building protocols that allow the UI to have a specific set of expectations on what the agent is going to stream back from the software, so that you can build multiple different UI experiences with the same agents, and you don't have to like rebuild your software in the back end just to support some new agent that's being built. So I would say that's what Microsoft has worked on foundationally. What Microsoft has, they've got like a lot of AI services like cognitive search or AI search and vision tools and things like that. But AI Foundry is the really big one that they've put out. AI Foundry is like the place to go to deploy your own versions of like Mistral models or Llama models, or to use OpenAI models. And to build agents as well. So they have declarative agents. You can do agent hosting as well in containers inside of Foundry. And you can even do, I believe, some form of like agent evaluation, like to do like a bunch of tests against your agent and determine like the quality of those agents. And so if you're a Microsoft person and you work in the Azure space, I would say definitely from an Azure stack on the PaaS service side, I would look at Microsoft Azure Foundry. And then I would look on the framework side at the new agent SDK, which previously was SK and AutoGen. Either one of those are also good to kind of experiment with. Having worked with most of the frameworks, my personal favorite so far has been the Anthropic Claude Agent SDK. So if you're a developer and you want to get started with that, that's also really good. Yeah.
Yeah, very good answer. If I so say myself. So, so what's next for Infra Codebase in the near future?
Working with people like this group of people, we have a big part of our strategy is community driven. So connecting with people in the community that have the need, that have the curiosity, that want to grow, that want to learn, that want to get into the cloud space or continue to expand what they already know, or to deliver more value to the companies that they work at. We're very focused on grassroots in terms of gaining adoption and having people use the product. And of course, the other side of that is, so that's kind of the flywheel for the product, how we get out there. So one way you can really help us is by sharing our product on social media, sharing a link to it and talking about it, and maybe your experiences with it if you get a chance to experiment with it. And then from the kind of like the way that we actually generate revenue is really these long sales cycles with enterprise customers who are definitely looking for the ways to solve these problems, and we believe we have one of the best answers on the market for them. So we're just working through a lot of conversations like that. But that's what's next for us, just the whole growth story, the community story, and building a great product with the people who use our products. And we take feedback very seriously. We work very fast to address any kind of feedback that we get. And so we'd be grateful for anything that you can share with us.
So, Mr. Turak, anything to add?
Thank you so much. For me, I love the community. I really would like to understand how we can work together. I really believe that today was only the beginning of our story together. So thank you so much for this opportunity. Next would be maybe getting another session together on how we can bring even more value for all the attendees, all the people in Costa Rica as well. But yeah, would love to do that with you.
So yeah, I would like to thank you two for lending us your time and expertise, and for showing us this incredible tool in order to be more effective and more productive and be able to build things even better.
Thank you so much for the time, and like I said, it's only the beginning. So like Justin said, the only thing that we're asking is continuing working with you guys. Maybe you can share as well to the entire community, Infra Codebase. You can share the session of today. If people want to reach out to us, then we are really active on LinkedIn as well. And yeah, let's start something together.
Yep. So until then, que les vaya bien en pura vida.
Thank
Pura
you so
vida.
much, guys, and see you soon.
¿Eh?
Gracias.
Bye bye.
Y muchas gracias a todos los colegiados que nos están viendo en vivo en este momento y aquellos que nos están viendo por diferido. Muchas gracias también. Esperamos que este rato haya sido de provecho y de mucho conocimiento y los esperamos en la próxima edición de Pulso Tecnológico.